On this episode of Clip Service, we are going to be talking about the roller coaster ride that was the last four games for the Los Angeles Clippers, which started out with definitely the worst loss of the season to Reggie Jackson, Deandre Jordan, and the Denver Nuggets. But all of that and more coming right up. So without further ado, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation, and welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, and even YouTube. And don't forget about Twitter, or X as they call it, at Clip Service Pod. I'm Rolla, and this is my boy and my co-host Nick. Let's get right into it. Nick, take it away.
Let's get into it. Rolla's starting out really chipper on this fine Sunday afternoon. He's feeling good. I'm feeling okay. We ended the week off in the right way. Started it off, in the worst of ways. So we're gonna cover
Just
all
a horrible
that.
way, dude.
That was bad. For those
Sickening.
of you that don't know what we're talking about, we are referring to the 113-104 loss against the Denver Nuggets, or some variation of the Denver Nuggets. What they rolled out that game, I can't even really call the Denver Nuggets. It was Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan, and the Denver G League team.
The second,
and that's not to take away from everybody they put out there. With Julian Strother, and they have some. There's
who
Christian Brown played.
Who?
They have some good young guys, but basically, the Denver Nuggets rested Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, and Jamal Murray was still out with his injury. Clippers were fully healthy, aside from the usual Brandon Boston and Mason Plumlee DNPs, injury DNPs. So obviously, based on how we felt going into that game, and we recorded the last episode a couple hours before it started, we felt pretty good about our chances that game. And holy shit, were we wrong! Rolla, you want to talk a little bit about that one? You guys get ready.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with one player. I'm not sure of the exact number. Our producer Shay, do you mind looking this up for me? Do you mind checking how much Paul George is supposed to make this year, in totality for the entire year? But he obviously doesn't play summers, so I just want to know exactly how much he gets paid. I'm just going to estimate right now that he gets paid around $40 million for the entire year. Me personally, so Shay just confirmed he gets paid $42.5 million.
And yikes, that's a pretty penny.
That's a pretty penny. I think most of us, and I think most of the people on this planet Earth would literally die to get paid that much in a lifetime, let alone a year. But lo and behold, we see Paul George score 6 points against a second string unit Denver Nuggets
and he fouled out, I
team.
think. Or no, he got 5 fouls, but he almost fouled out.
He got 5 fouls. He played a total of 37 minutes and scored 6 points. This is our quote-unquote number 2 player on the team. Over the past couple games, he has been the number 1 player. But this was a completely unacceptable game. Dude had Reggie Jackson guarding him most of the time. Reggie Jackson's like 6'1", maybe 6'2" on a good day. And it's
crazy.
Honestly just extremely embarrassing from Paul George. 2 of 13, 8 boards, 4 assists. And, like Nick said, five fouls. So
the shitty thing... sorry, I'm going to butt in real quick and I'll let you continue. But the shitty thing, too, is... and we're going to touch on it later, but Kawhi put together, a couple really good games over the course of the last 4 games, and this was one of them. This was the first game where I saw Kawhi, getting to his kill spots and, getting his normal shots off. He ended up finishing the game with 31 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. I mean, he was a -5 in the plus minus, but that whole starting lineup, was playing horribly, and so that
Oh yeah.
kind of explains why the plus minus was so bad. But we did get a good Kawhi game, and it sucks that we didn't get anything from Paul George. And another thing is, dude, Ivica Zubats ended up
23
23
points.
points and 14 rebounds. Like Zoo has been probably our most consistent
But
player
can we
over the
talk
course
about
of the last 4 games.
his defense?
His defense has been great.
Yeah,
Zoo's
but
defense
again,
has been
in this
great.
game, he kind of
But
got torched. He kind of got
so
torched.
so I was looking at some discourse over Twitter too, in regards to that, because watching the game, I was like, okay, DeAndre Jordan's feasting. Like, where is Zoo? But really, I think what it boiled down to was nobody was communicating on defense. Zoo would come out a little bit, like they weren't playing as much drop coverage. He was coming out to help, at the elbow or whatever. And really, all you got to do is talk. If Zoo comes out of the paint, someone's got to switch and just literally box out DeAndre Jordan. He's not going to be able to jump over Terrence
Mm,
Mann. You know
well,
what I
he
mean?
kind of
So
was. He was jumping over people.
no, all you got to do is box out the big. Our switches
I
weren't
mean, it's
crisp.
easier said than done.
Our switches weren't crisp. We were over committing on Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson, we've seen it. I love Reggie Jackson. I will always love Reggie Jackson. One of my favorite Clippers ever. But he's getting older, and Reggie Jackson really isn't the player that he showed that he was showing he was that game. He's getting older, and so I don't really necessarily think you need to be doubling him. Even though he was hitting his shots, but when you do, we have to make sure that we talk and rotate and help out and keep guys out of the paint. And when Zoo was coming out to help, nobody was rotating in, and it was a free lane, and all Reggie had to do was throw the lob, and DeAndre was looking like it was a Lob City reunion.
Oh yeah,
So
but
it,
I mean, that's what Reggie does. I think Reggie came out with a chip on his shoulder. He's playing. Was this the first time that he's really played against the Clippers since he got traded? I think so,
I
right?
think it was actually the first time that he's played at home, because they did do a
Okay,
tribute video, and Reggie gave the heart to all the fans,
right,
and it was a cool moment.
right. So
So he
I'm
definitely
just
played with a chip on
thinking.
his shoulder.
I'm thinking for someone like Reggie, and Reggie's an amazing player, but for someone like Reggie who played on the Clippers, who practiced with these guys not too long ago, literally last year, they were playing against each other every single day, practices, games. They were playing with each other. Reggie knows the Clippers players just as much as the Clippers players know Reggie. The way they got dismantled and torched, and what other adjectives am I looking for, or adverbs?
No, those were pretty good.
It's
That was a pretty good.
it's well, verbs, torched, and and it was just so embarrassing.
We got beat.
I'm looking
We got
I'm
beat.
looking for I'm looking for more to say, but it's just like I'm at a loss of words
Well,
because
that's what it
we
is. I
had
mean,
no
Reggie ended up
business
he played 40 minutes,
losing this game.
35 points. Yeah,
35, and it's who I mean, you look at our starting lineup, and every single one of these players except for Zoo maybe should be able to guard Reggie easily. We have the perimeter defenders. We have the length for someone like for a guard like Reggie Jackson to not go off. The only person who like his stature who can or should be able to go off against this lineup is
Steph Curry.
probably Steph Curry.
Yeah,
But Reggie Jackson, like, come on, let's be honest. Reggie Jackson is amazing, but he's not. He shouldn't be torching Paul George the way he was. He shouldn't be torching like our defense the way he was. And I think that just came down to our team just being lazy. They didn't seem like they wanted it the way the Nuggets wanted it. They thought that they were going to come in and it was going to be an easy game. They forgot that even though I made a joke and I was like, "Oh, who they're still professional basketball players
they
on the
are,
Nuggets.
dude.
Every single one of them are professional basketball players. They all once if they got an opportunity, they can all go off on their own. They are all legit. They're all champions. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So it's just sad to see that we needed to win that game, and I think we would have. You know, currently we're in a pretty good mindset, but I think having won that game would have put us even in a greater mindset because in the last game we both predicted we would go what 3-1. So it's just sad to see us lose that game, and it was very frustrating. I feel like it was frustrating for all of Clipper Nation.
Yeah, totally. I think honestly that was had to be top. I mean, I can't think of all of them because there's been some bad ones, but that had to be top three most disappointing Clipper games, if not in the 2-1-3 era, then just ever. So I just with what's at stake this
Regular
season, those
season.
are the yeah, exactly. With what's at stake this season, with the amount of eggs we've put in one basket this season, we can't be
Mm-hmm.
losing games like that. And then Deandre 21 points, 13 rebounds. He feasted again. Like I said, I don't think all of that can be blamed on Zoo. I think our rotations were really bad. Terrence, that was the worst game I've seen from Terrence so far this season. He
Mm-hmm.
just looked a little lost out there. There was one play where Zoo did come out, and Terrence was just all he had to do was rotate in and box out, and it led to I think a lob or a back cut by one of their wings, and just easy bucket. And the one guy that I thought that the Clippers had to watch out for, Michael Porter Jr., had a terrible game. I mean, he hit a big shot, a big three at the end. He was 3 for 13. Hit the two biggest shots of the game were games that he took, or shots that he took, I think, late in the fourth or something like that. He hit two threes in the fourth. We only finished the game with 8 points. He chipped in with 10 rebounds, but that was the guy that the Clippers needed to lock up,
Mm-hmm.
and and we just let everybody else feast on us. Like you said, Paul George was 6.
Disgusting.
Terrence only had 5, and that's we'll live with that with Terrence. But it was everybody just looked flat. Everybody looked like they
Yeah.
came in thinking that they were going to be awarded this game, and that's what we talked about in the last episode. Was the one thing that can go wrong is letting these guys feel confident, letting these guys get in their groove, and we let that happen. We let professional basketball players, doesn't matter how deep down on the bench they are, we let professional basketball players get to their spots, get in their groove. And we made a joke last episode. Don't let Reggie start skipping down the floor. That dude was skipping
Yeah.
his ass all over us the whole game. That dude, if skips were counted as a stat, he would have had a quadruple double, triple double. He was going off on us, again, I love Reggie. I love to see him shine, and I love to see him happy. He has nothing but good things to say about the Clippers all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
and he's one of the guys that really looks fondly on his Clipper tenure, but not against us like this. You hate to see it. So yeah, this one was tough. I think that was the lowest I've felt all season, and I've been trying to keep positive. We had some the loss against the Brooklyn Nets, the hobbled Brooklyn Nets was pretty bad. We had a bad loss against the Grizzlies, but this one took the cake. I was just kind of at a loss for words. We just didn't look like we wanted to win. Halfway through the game, I was like, dude, the Clippers might have some money on this with the way they're playing. Like they
Yeah.
looked like they were throwing the game, and
Trash.
and I said it after the game. I said, if we don't split these 4 games, we're going to be in trouble. Not because of the record per se, because you can always turn the season around this early, but just from setting a bad precedent. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, we were able to split 2-2 these 4 games. But I was kind of tripping after this game, and yeah, it was bad. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say about that game. I think it was just a poor showing. We played
Yeah.
like we play like it was a 12:30 game, and we were playing against the dominant team, but it was neither of those things. So yeah, that one was a tough pill to swallow, but fortunately we were able to turn it around in the next game against the Kings in Sacramento, which was one of the games that kind of had me worried. Sacramento's a tough building to play in. The Kings play at a breakneck speed, particularly with Darren Fox running the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, particularly after that last game, I thought the Kings were going to run us out of the building, but it definitely wasn't the case. And that was actually one of the best games of the season, just from the eye test and what I saw on the court. Uh, let's see
Yeah.
who led
So
the game. Oh yeah,
I mean,
go ahead, Roller.
the Kings were playing on this was a back to back for them. This was their second game, so it was one of those games where we had lost the Nuggets game, and it would have been so demoralizing and so and would have been so bad for our team morale had we had lost this game. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why everyone seemed to have stepped up, because again, this was a back to back, and the Kings players just didn't have the energy that they had in the first game. I think they beat the Warriors, right? Do you know? Shay, do you mind checking that really quick?
What's that? Sorry.
Do you know if they beat the Warriors the game before, the Kings?
Yeah, I think Malik Monk ended up going off down the stretch. I don't have that on hand, but yeah, I think they ended up winning that game.
So yeah, so I it's just like the night before they had a big game against the Warriors. It went down to that was the game that Malik Monk hit the game winner, right? Is that
I
what you
believe
said?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, that's a tough game for them to come and play us in the next night. I was not expecting them to beat us. This was another game. We honestly should have won 2 games in a row with the Nuggets and then this game.
Agreed.
These were 2 easy wins for a team of
Well,
our
I wouldn't
caliber.
say easy, but it was they were winnable. The Nuggets won for
I,
sure.
I think I
The
think
Kings
this
are
game
always
was
tough.
I think this game was easy for our players. Kawhi went 4 of 18, 34 points. This is what I've been asking for from Kawhi the past couple of episodes. I wanted to see 30 plus from Kawhi, 25 plus. And I'm glad that we've gotten it.
77 from the field too. That's pretty
Exactly.
insane.
So and this was the game where he dunked on who was it that he dunked on?
JaVale
Uh
McGee.
JaVale
He had a
McGee,
nasty.
sorry. But that's exactly what I was saying. It's the energy, it's the passion for the game, and the aggressiveness that was lacking from his game from those previous games. And that's what I was saying. I want to see one game where he's just like, you know what, let me just go off. I think he's been trying to reserve his energy because they always say like load management. Kawhi doesn't want to play this, that, and the third. So I think what he's been doing is he's been trying to and you recommended that he should take a game rest, but I was thinking that's kind of stupid. Not your idea, not you
Oh,
are
okay.
stupid. I just think
I
that
see how it is. Well,
I just think that
coming from my
it doesn't
neck.
make sense. It just doesn't make sense for a professional athlete to be tired almost.
That's fair.
But
This
unless
early in
he's
the
injured,
season.
right? So yeah, exactly. Unless he's injured, but I mean, it looks like he hasn't been. It looks like he's been almost like load managing himself. And I'm
Yeah.
glad he's trying to step it up to get us out of the slump we're in. Because when he scores 34 plus, look at our team. This game,
Yeah.
he was just torching them. He got everything he wanted. 9 boards, 3 assists. Paul George 19 points, 7 assists, 3 boards. Zoo had 14 points. He played well. James Harden was playing out of his mind. He was hitting corner threes. He was doing his thing. 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Just almost like a vintage James Harden type game. Obviously, he's not going to get the numbers as the actual vintage James Harden, but overall, I think our team played well. Terrence Mann was playing with a lot of energy. I saw him running around, acting like how Terrence Mann acts. And
Yeah.
honestly, an overall great game from our team, and a game. This was the energy. The energy I saw in this game was the energy we should have had against the Nuggets, and that Nuggets game would have been done in 3 quarters. You know what I mean?
I agree. Uh, Actually, something to go back a little bit. The more to your point, with how Kawhi played,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of what I was talking about. Where Kawhi is one of the only players in the league to me that can flip that switch, which was part of the reason why I said that if he needed to take a game off just so that he can save himself at the end of the season, then I think that I'm okay with it. But I think that we've been looking so bad, and particularly after the worst loss in the season by far, and probably in the last couple years against the
Mm-hmm.
Nuggets, Kawhi was able to flip that switch, and I think a big part of that. I didn't watch most of this game. I kind of just saw highlights. I was at Wood Ranch eating some rolls, as
Ooh,
we do.
steak?
Um, oh yeah, yeah. I got no
No,
ribs
I see you.
actually. Ribs.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Baby
Barbecue,
back.
baby back.
Of course,
Hey,
of
I
course.
see you.
But yeah, so what I saw from the highlights and what I saw from what I saw on social media
Mm-hmm.
was that actually I think the the player that set the tone early on was James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
I think he scored 10 points straight or something like that in the first quarter.
Yeah.
James Harden looked really sharp, and he looked like he was telling everybody, yeah, telling the rest of the team like, okay, we're gonna try and win this one. I'm gonna shoot a little bit more. We're gonna do what we can to win. He set the tone for sure, and I love to see it. And the best thing about that was James Harden was able to cook early on, set the tone, but it didn't get in the way of Kawhi being able to take over as well. So
Right.
that's something that we need to try and sprinkle in, as much as we can. Nobody should feel bad about stepping on anybody's toes. It's whoever's got the hot hand, you take it. We have so many options on offense on this team. With the way that it's constructed. Our producer Shay just said that Zoo got out rebounded by Kawhi, which is just a testament, not necessarily an indictment on Zoo, but just a testament to how dominant Kawhi was that
Mm-hmm.
game. But yeah, I just think that it was that this game was a perfect example of, okay, I think that there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but we can be able to, based on the flow of the game, whoever's got the hot hand, whoever's has the mismatch on them, cook. And then when somebody starts to double that person, kick it to the next guy. We have so many weapons on this team, all the way down to, guys like Norm and Russ and the guys that we have coming off the bench, even Tice. We have a lot of mouths to feed, but if once we're able to get to gel and get that chemistry right and figure out, okay, now's the time to give the ball to this guy. Now's the time
Mm-hmm.
for this person to take a back seat. Just figure that out all in real time, which is not an easy thing to do. But once we get to that point, we can look the way that we looked against this Kings team, which is, the Kings are never, particularly the last couple of years, are not a team to stick your nose up at. They play hard, they play really fast. I think last year they had the best offensive efficiency rating or something in the history of the game. Mike Brown
Mm-hmm.
has those guys playing really crisp offensive sets, and they're good. And to be able to put 131 on a team like that is no joke. So I think that this game was a perfect encapsulation of that. De'Aaron Fox went for 40, but the second leading scorer was Malik Monk with 15. The defense looked really good. The defense, I've touched on it many a time over the last couple episodes, but the defense hasn't been the problem to me, at least not on a consistent level. Our defense has
Mm-hmm.
actually looked really good. I don't think we're the number one team in steals anymore, but I think we're second or third. We're still really dominant on that end. We have a bunch of guys that like to gamble in the passing lanes and come up with steals. Paul George, with his offensive shortcomings the last couple of games, he's been a phenomenal defender.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I think that doesn't get talked about enough when people are talking about the Clippers this season. Is Paul George on that side of the ball? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, overall, there's not much for me to nitpick about this game. I think that this was a great showing from everybody, all the way down to
I
some
think
of our guys off the bench
a game like this is kind of it almost shows like what the Clippers can be when we're clicking on all cylinders.
when we're locked. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of frustrating to see like a game like how low we can get with a game like the Nuggets, and then how good we can be against watching this game against the Kings. It's just it almost like doesn't make sense
it
because
doesn't.
the Kings are like they're just a significantly better team, even though they were on the second night of a back to back. They were significantly better than the Nuggets were. And it's just like we were completely dominant against them. James Harden was balling, and it's just like when you see, or at least for me, when I see the team play at this level, it's kind of you kind of ask the question like, why don't we play at this level every night? I mean,
I agree.
I guess like leading into the next game against the Warriors, uh, it's almost like we should be blowing out the way we played against the Kings. We should be blowing out this Warriors team. Um, I don't know if you wanted to go into the kind of go into the Warriors, yeah,
Yeah,
or
I
if
don't
you
really
wanted to
have
say
much
anything
else
about
to
the
say about
Kings.
the. I don't really have much else to say about the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
After the game was over, I was obviously happy with the way that we won, but I was just thinking to myself after I saw the score, I was like, man, I don't know whether to be like super stoked about this score or like kind of disappointed because I was literally one game prior, I was the lowest I've ever felt as a Clipper fan this season. and then we go and whoop a really good Kings team. So yeah, it's just that, that seems to, and really the thing is, it's not isolated to just this season. That's been a thing in the 2-1-3 era, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
even all the way back to Lob City. It's just kind of been a thing, and as a Clipper fan, it's really frustrating to not be able to have that consistency, um, you know, on any given night. But we escaped with the win, and yeah, to go into the Warriors game, which we ended up falling 120-114. Again, it's just back and forth. It's been a roller coaster these last four games.
Oh yeah.
It ended up taking a loss to a team that honestly, you can touch on it more, but the one thing that I want to say is, honestly, neither team looked great for about three quarters. The game
Mm-hmm.
was kind of there. The um, the Warriors were hitting some big shots, as they do. They have the greatest shooters to ever play the game on that team,
Right.
and they were hitting big shots. But I really didn't think that either team looked dominant until about the fourth quarter or late in the third. And this game was there for the taking, and particularly
Yeah.
coming off of a game against the the Kings, beating them the way that we did. I thought that we were gonna be able to be the ones to take over this game. What did
I
you think?
agree. Yeah. No, I thought the flip was finally switched when I watched the Kings game, and I did not see the same energy that we saw in that game. And I think it was because it's almost like you mentioned, like we're like a roller coaster. It's almost like our players are like, okay, we won that game. Let's like we can chill now. Like it's okay. Like we can chill and like go on with our business. And I feel like that's not the right mentality to have. Paul George has been, like offensively kind of poor recently. He had 15 points this game, but 10 assists. That's when you're having a poor shooting night, you gotta impact the game in other ways. Although he had one rebound, which is kind of unacceptable for someone that's playing 37 minutes for as tall as Paul George is, as athletic and as almost attentive as he usually is. Kawhi 23 points. He had two steals, seven boards, zero assists though. But the ball was in Paul George's hands more. I feel like so. We'll see more assists from Paul George and from Kawhi in this game. I think James Harden had a decent game. I feel like we can't put too much pressure on James, or I don't want to. I feel like we can't criticize James Harden too much because we do have to remember he didn't have a preseason. He was with another team to start the season, so this is still, I feel like we can't judge him until maybe I would say another month. I would give him another month, and this is he had 18 points, nothing to sneeze at. Still 18 points is 18 points, 6 of 13 from the field. Terrence Mann had a decent game, plus 13, plus minus 9 points. Um, but like you said, I think the game was we could have won this game. I don't want to say pretty easily, but this was
It
a
was there
game
for the
where I
taking.
feel like
I
yeah, it
think it
was
was
there for the
anybody's game.
taking. We could have won this game. I think I saw a couple clips of Steph Curry kind of just going off. I only watched the end of this game, so I saw a couple clips of Steph Curry going off, and he ended up with 26 points. You said Klay Thompson went off a little bit. He was going off at the end of the fourth.
Yeah,
Um, but looking at Jonathan Kuminga with 17 points, that's kind of annoying to see.
yeah,
I don't think their bench players should ever be scoring that much against us. But overall, it's just one of those games. I feel like I was expecting more from our Clipper team, especially coming off that Kings game. But I just don't think that, especially because the Golden State Warriors were without Chris Paul. Also, I just don't think that they were on our level. Do you have anything to
yeah.
say
I
about this
agree.
game?
Without Chris Paul and without Andrew Wiggins, who allegedly slammed his finger in a car door
Oh, is
before
that
the
what happened?
game. Yeah, that's what I heard. He
Jesus.
slammed his finger in the car door, and he sat this one out. So they weren't healthy, and it was a game that was kind of up in the air for most of it. Clay got going late in the third, and hit some big shots in the fourth. but this was a game that we could have won. One thing one thing on the margins that's kind of frustrated me was, um, and I touched on it earlier, but Zoo's probably been our most consistent player. Like, obviously not necessarily a consistent scorer, but Zoo's probably been the most consistent player over the course of the last 4 games ish. He's looked, his focus has looked a lot better. He finished the game with 13 rebounds and 18 points. He was a +7, 1 block, 4 for 5 from the, or no, 7 for 11 from the field, 4 for 5 from the free throw line. Zoo's been good, and when Zoo isn't exactly like a pillar of consistency, generally speaking, we're wasting games where we're getting real contributions from our starting center, and that's been frustrating. Kawhi, Shay just put it in the chat. Kawhi hit 7 for 8 from within the paint, but 0 for 7 from outside of the paint, not including threes. So I think Kawhi and Paul George were having troubles getting to their spots this game.
Right.
I can't shit on Kawhi too much because he had a pretty decent game last game or the game before that. But yeah, it looked like our guys were just kind of struggling to get to their spots, struggling to get to the hoop. I think that Paul George gets one of the worst whistles in the game. And when he doesn't get the calls, he settles for jumpers. And when the jumpers aren't falling, sometimes he looks like he's just out of options, and sometimes he'll try to get involved on the playmaking side of things. And he when he's not making an easy pass, sometimes those will get picked off. So things just kind of looked discombobulated throughout the whole game. The Warriors were just the ones to end up getting their shit together and pulling out the win. So that one was frustrating, or that loss was frustrating. I don't think it would have been as consequential had we not lost to the Denver Nuggets in the way that we did. I think all of this, most of what happened this week, falls on
the Nuggets
we
game.
either took the win and mitigated what happened against the Nuggets, or we took the loss and it hurt so much more because we lost to the Nuggets. So this week was important. I'm glad we split, but yeah, unfortunately we did take the loss to the Golden State Warriors 120-114. But there was a silver lining at the end of the tunnel, and I don't even know if that was the right way to use that phrase, but there was a silver lining, and that was the 113-112 nail biter against the Golden State Warriors yesterday, 1:00 game, which had me tripping. I honestly, was going into that game thinking this is, the Clippers are going to come out a little sluggish, and to be honest, we kind of did. We came out of the gates looking pretty
very
shaky.
Sluggish.
There
First half was trash, dude.
Exactly, and particularly from Paul George, who ended up hitting the game-winning 3 over Klay Thompson in the last couple seconds of the game. But yeah, the defense was horrible. Shay and I were watching the game, and Draymond hit a couple early threes, and I was thinking, okay,
what was that?
Let him take that. I was thinking, okay, so the first.
When was the last time?
How
many threes did he make? 4.
4. No, sorry. At least.
Yeah, he hit 4 threes. 4. When was the last time he hit 4 threes in a game? 4+.
So my thing with that was, like I was saying, the first couple of threes, they were pretty open. And with Draymond,
but he always gets open threes.
I know, but when they were actively feeding him, and I was thinking, okay, every shot that Draymond takes is one shot that Klay and Steph don't take. Let him keep taking them. And then after that third three, he started talking some shit and started feeling good. I was thinking, oh no, is this going to be one of those games? And then I start to realize, okay, maybe we're leaving Draymond open because we're not playing crisp defense, and it wasn't a choice. We weren't rotating out to everybody, and that was kind of the case. Our defensive rotations were really, really poor that first half, at least. We didn't look great. Paul George, like I said, Paul George ended up hitting the biggest shot of the game. Ended up finishing with 25. Led the game led the team. Actually, led the game in points with 25. But he didn't look great in the first half, and Kawhi looked a little flat. Zoo was okay, 7 rebounds, 12 points. We did get a pretty real contribution from James Harden with 9 assists and 21 points. Terrence didn't look great. 3 points. Like I said, we'll live with it with Terrence, but he did look a little lost out there. One thing, just a weird thing for me that I liked, even though he looked pretty lost out there, was Kobe Brown is getting some playing time, and PJ Tucker is getting DMP'd. And I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on PJ Tucker, because I love PJ Tucker, but it really wasn't working for us, particularly because he wasn't willing to take a ton of shots and he wasn't hitting the shots that he was taking. I like that we're playing Kobe Brown. He gives us a little bit of size, and in theory, he should be knocking down shots. In the preseason, he was knocking down some threes, big threes. I like his shooting form. He does get after it. There was one play where he was cutting baseline. I think James Harden might have dished it to him as he was cutting baseline, threw it to the corner, and it was either Kawhi or PG hit a three. It looked good. He did look like he had some potential as a connector. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition in terms of the box score, but yeah, that was one little thing for me that I liked. I do like that Kobe Brown is getting some burn. I would like to see Amir Coffey sprinkled in there too, just because I think with Coffey we know what we get. I think that Kobe Brown's ceiling as a scorer can be a bit higher, just because Coffey's a little bit more of a catch and shoot guy, doesn't score off the dribble, and doesn't have the size that Kobe Brown does, even though Kobe Brown's young, rookie. But I would like to see that those two kind of alternate between minutes that PJ Tucker was getting, at the 4.
Right.
But yeah, I think that, it was great that Paul George hit the shot that he did. But, this game wasn't beautiful to watch. Especially down the stretch, it looked like Golden State was going to start taking momentum. Kuminga had a really nasty dunk over Tice. And they had some big momentum plays. But at the end of the day, Paul George hit a giant shot, and the ball was given to Draymond at the end of the game to take the shot to, in theory, help the Warriors win the game, and he bricked it. It was a great closeout by Russ. Russ ended up contesting it, and actually one more thing that I wanted to touch on was leading up to that Paul George shot. Russ came up with a giant rebound, kind of skied in for the rebound, intercepted what would have been a Draymond a rebound, and was able to take it down the floor. Russ had a bunch of really big plays in the margins this game, and he's, I think that he doesn't get talked about enough sometimes on this pod, which is, that's on us. But Russ has done a pretty good job as far as knowing his role coming off the bench. I was kind of leery about him coming off the bench, just in terms of having, I think in theory it's a great move. I would rather him come off the bench than Harden, but I was kind of worried about if he was going to be able to assimilate into his role right away. But he's done a lot of good stuff on the margins for us. And that play particularly is a testament. That the rebound and then contesting that Draymond 3, it's a big reason why we won the game. So I've liked what I saw from Russ. I don't know what he ended up finishing with 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. So a pretty modest outing. He was 2 for 4 from the 3-point line, which is always good to see. But I think the big thing for me is we escaped with a win. And one thing that really had me hopeful after the game was watching the highlights and the replays. After Paul George hit that shot, seeing the bench reaction and seeing all the guys on the court, the way that they reacted to the shot, they wanted to win that game so bad. Once it became a close game, and once they came back down 22. That's another thing that we should touch on is they were down 22 at one point in that game, and we fought back. And just from the eye test, this game meant a lot to not only everybody on the bench, but to Paul George. Everybody was jumping up and down and celebrating, and everybody looked like they were really happy that it was Paul George that hit that shot. I think that maybe they figured that might give him a boost of confidence. So I honestly, I might be being overzealous, but I honestly think that something might be born out of this game, just in terms of an aggression particularly from Paul George. We'll see. Rolla, you're making a face. For those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, Rolla's making a very worried face right now. Rolla, what is all that about? Tell me what you think.
I just got some things to touch on personally. This is just for me, kind of maybe I'm analyzing things too far, but it's just something I gotta say. Um, Paul George hitting that last shot. I've been preaching basically since the first episode that Paul George needs to have the ball in his hands to end every single game. It shouldn't be in James Harden's hands. It shouldn't be in Kawhi's hands. In the past games, we've been putting it in Kawhi's hands, and Kawhi's been taking those similar types of shots, and it's been brick city every time. Paul George, and although I don't know if you remember this, this was last season. He mentioned that he was fine being second on the team, and that really frustrated me personally because I thought that that was the wrong mentality to have. Paul George, since the first day of this season, should have demanded to have the ball in his hands every single time. There's a minute left and 2 minutes left in the game. The ball needs to be in Paul George's hands on every single play. And I'm not saying that Kawhi isn't a great closer. Kawhi isn't, an amazing player. He's our superstar, right? But at the end of the day, Paul George just hits tough shots, and that's just the fact of the matter.
And it was a tough shot.
It was a tough shot.
Clay's no slouch on defense, and taking Clay off the dribble from
right.
three on the fast break is it's no easy task, especially with the game.
It's no easy task, and this is why I always preach that Paul George is one of the most talented players in the league. I think if he actually had the right mentality, the mentality of a number one superstar, I think that there's no way he shouldn't be a top 5 player in this league. But I will say, and this kind of is leading into my next topic, is it was a tough shot, and it was almost like Paul George kind of just did it on a whim. And sometimes you just got to let your stars, just do. I know Steve Kerr does this with Steph Curry all the time. Sometimes you just got to let your stars just like ball. Because at the end of the day, like, you can be a coach, but you can't do what they do. You know what I mean? But I got to ask, after seeing these last 4 games, I'm sitting over here wondering what the fuck is Ty Lue doing? It's almost like they're not being coached. It's almost like he's just throwing them out there, and it's just whatever happens. Because at the end of the game, I would expect a timeout, right? Play drawn up for Paul George to get a shot, and obviously this was the right move to just let Paul George do what he does. But I guess, like, moving forward, are we going to let him do that every single time at the end of the game? Are we going to call a play to get him open? Because, I mean, he's not going to hit this. It was a tough shot. He's not going to hit that shot every time. So I guess my question is like, I feel like Ty Lue hasn't been as effective and hasn't really had a impact on this team as he has in prior years. So it's kind of just, I'm just wondering, like, what changed with Ty Lue? Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I probably wouldn't have touched on that this episode. I kind of forgot, but I think that, and I tweeted it out on a couple days ago, but I don't necessarily think it's the right call, because I do think that there's always a very reactionary aspect to teams that end up firing their coaches early on in the season, particularly. But I do think that over this course of the last 4 games, Ty Lue's seat has become a little hotter. I think that, with a new stadium coming and Steve Ballmer being a part of the whole decision to put all of our chips, put all our eggs in one basket and get James Harden, stack up on top end talent. I think that this season is as close to a win now season as we can get. And I think that he's going to try everything that he can possibly do. I know Ballmer's obviously not a big X's and O's guy. He's not necessarily a basketball mind. And that's what I love about him, is he puts guys in position to make those choices for him.
Right.
It's different than Mark Cuban, who's or someone like Mark Cuban, who's very much a voice inside the locker room. Steve Ballmer, he ran, he was the CEO of Microsoft for a long time. He knows that when it comes time to making decisions, sometimes it's better to put people that are, professionals in those positions to make those decisions. And I think that he's going to approach this season that way. I'm not saying that Ty Lue's going to get fired, but I think that at this point this season, Steve Ballmer is going to do everything that he can to put us in position to win. And
a saying for that a certain someone that I follow very closely says is Steve Ballmer is a genius because he knows he is not one.
Yeah.
So he's a genius because he puts people that are actual geniuses on the subject or on, you know what I mean? So he puts people in positions to make the decisions. So he knows, so he doesn't have to, because he knows he doesn't have the knowledge to make those decisions. But sorry, go on.
No, you're good. And I think that the double-edged sword, or the catch to that too, is the guy that's making those decisions, I think, is just as much in the hot seat as Ty Lue with Lawrence Frank. There have been some, he's done a great job of building this 2-1-3 team, in the wake of the disbanding of the Lob City era. He's had a ton of victories, but there's been things like the Eric Gordon move where, I don't necessarily think that Luke Kennard was going to be a part of our future, particularly because he gets played off the floor on defense. Trading for Eric Gordon and throwing Luke Kennard in that, and then basically throwing the pick that ended up being Cam Whitmore, the pick swap. This little things like that, only giving up all that for 3 months of Eric Gordon, and the Rajon Rondo move and the John Wall move, assigning John Wall instead of giving Isaiah Hartenstein his money. Little things like that. I think that both of those guys are in a little bit of a hot seat. I think that Ty Lue is harder to replace than a guy like Lawrence Frank, and I think both are incredible at their jobs. So I don't necessarily think, I actually disagree with a lot of people that are saying we need to fire Ty Lue. I think that,
I didn't even know people were saying that.
But I've been hearing a lot of it. It's just, it's classic discourse throughout the season.
Right.
It's a finger to point, it's someone to point their finger at.
But I do think he should be on the hot seat. I think that there should be a little bit of a pressure on him because it seems like he's a little bit lax right now. And our team needs to be better. He has too much talent on his team, and to have the players that he does on the Clippers would be any coach's dream. This a guy. Imagine coaching a team, and you have a guy in Kawhi that you can just say, "Hey, Kawhi, we need you to score 25 tonight," and he's going to do it every single time. Or Paul George, "Hey, I need you to hit this 3 to win us the game," and then Paul George is going to hit the 3. It's not. I think that Ty Lue, it's almost like he doesn't realize what he has situation. And I think that maybe he didn't like the James Harden joining our team, or maybe it kind of screwed things up, or it's not flowing the way he was expecting it to flow. But that's why he gets paid the big bucks. That's why he is coaching the coach of the Clippers, is because he is able to make the team flow. And even though it's not what he was expecting to start the season, it is what it is. We have 4 potential Hall of Famers on our team. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like you don't really have any excuse at this point. Like you said, it's a kind of like a do or die season for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with most of that. And I always want to piggyback on something before we talk about previewing the next 2 games coming up. But I think that I think that it's, and he's even said it. Ty Lue's even said it. I think that I don't necessarily think any coach would want to be in this position this season with everything that's at stake. I think so, because on paper, the pairing of Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi, on paper, that doesn't make a ton of sense because everybody's so ball dominant. You have 2 guards that kind of do the same thing in different ways. You have 2 wings that do the same.
I think you're putting Russell Westbrook on the same level as James Harden, but I don't think he is.
Well, so when we first brought Harden in, we were starting those 2 next to each other.
Right,
now
and that
that
was
they've
just stupid.
yeah, now that they've been separated, I think that Ty's job gets a little bit easier. But at the same time, you're
But
in that
why
locker
wasn't he
room. You
doing
have
that
to
before? That's the big question. How did he not recognize that?
you got to be able to. I think a part of it is managing everybody's egos, and that's one thing that I actually like that Ty Lue does is he gives everybody a sample size of he said it about 10 games to say prove to me that you don't want me to make this decision that I'm about to make, or you do want me to make this decision that I'm trying to make. He did it with Marcus Morris last season. I'm going to give a 10-game sample size to see if you're able to start at the power forward. If not, and it took a little longer than I would have liked, but he ended up taking Marcus Morris off the starting lineup, putting Nico Batum in there. I would have liked to see a little bit more Rocco, but he, with the amount of, and I don't say ego in a negative way, but the amount of
Mm-hmm.
ego on this team, just in terms of these are some of the best players to ever touch the floor that we all have on
Right.
in the same locker room on the same team. You have to be able to manage. Okay, like maybe this is not your time to shine, and even though you've been putting up Hall of Fame numbers throughout your entire career, I'm going to have you coming off the bench, or I'm going to have you giving up a couple touches this game, or I'm going to have you uh, be more of a catch and shoot player this game. So I don't think that Ty Lue has an easy job, and that's why I'm willing to give him a little bit more grace than Lawrence Frank, because I would hate to be in that position to be able to have like this is a win now season and having to try and figure all this out on the fly. James Harden wasn't given an off season, trying to get him in game shape, having guys like Bones Highland sit on the bench when you know that they deserve minutes. My biggest thing with Ty Lue in the last, actually just really early on in the season is he's been really hesitant to go big, and we don't have with Mason Plumlee out, we don't have a
Mm-hmm.
ton of options as far as bigs. Our only other center besides Zoo is Daniel Tice at 6'8", and Daniel Tice has been great for us in
Mm-hmm.
his short stint with the Clippers, but Ty Lue has elected to go small more often than not, and it worked with our wingstop lineup. We had guys like Morris and Rocco and Nico and Coffee, and we had a bunch of really pretty sizable wings to throw out there and go small that could play the five. Rocco's he's proven to be a good give good minutes at the five, and same with Nico. But now that we don't have those guys and we're more of a guard heavy lineup, you can't really go small anymore. And I've seen lineups where it's been Paul George at the five and four guards out there, and some of which are Russell Westbrook and Norman Powell, guys that Norm more so than Russ, guys that can't really be defensive stoppers. And
Correct.
his rotations have been a little odd, and he's kind of contradicted himself. He says, I don't want to play as many guards at one time, but he's gone and done that. I don't want to play James and Russ next to each other, but he's still doing that in spurts. I mean, he has taken PJ Tucker out of the rotation for the time being, which is something that I really wanted to see. And given him the minutes to Amir and to Kobe and to Tice. He did play Tice and Zoo next to each other in the closing minutes of that game against the Warriors. So little things like that are great, but he hasn't had a stellar year as a coach. But like I said, I'm willing to give him a little bit more grace just because of the circumstances and
But I don't know. I don't know if you can say that no coach would want to be in this position though, because I think that he has all the tools. I think any coach would want to be a champion, right? And I think you mentioned like with the pressure of this season and like the pressure of the Clippers in general, I think that he has a championship team under his belt. Like, yeah, we're missing some centers, yeah, we're missing some pieces here and there, but you have three of the best players in the league on your team, and I don't know how many other teams can say that. Um, you have James Harden who can, obviously he's not up to where we expect him to be, but when he is, he's able to put up 40 plus points in a game. We've seen it countless times. He's able to, dish out 10 plus assists in a games, get some boards. He's even been able to lock in on defense sometimes. And then you have Kawhi Leonard, two-time champion, two-time Finals MVP. He doesn't just have regular guys. He doesn't have like De'Aaron Fox or these stars that haven't really done anything in the league. He has like accomplished veteran players that know what the fuck they're doing. And
Yeah.
for any coach, that would be a dream. And to say that we have championship aspirations, any coach would love to have championship aspirations. You're trying to tell me who's the coach? Who's the coach for the Pistons now? He's on the Suns.
Oh, Monty Williams.
You're trying to tell me Monty Williams is glad to go from having championship aspirations on the Suns to the Pistons now? It's like, come on.
That was his choice.
I mean, he was going to get fired. Well, he basically got fired.
Yeah.
But let's be real. These are professional coaches. They are the best at their jobs for a reason, and I just don't think I'm seeing that from Ty Lue currently. But I also wanted to touch on one more thing. Dude, what the hell is wrong with Draymond Green, bro? I don't know if it was this game.
That's a great question because I ask myself that all the time. But what do you mean?
I don't know if it was this game. I saw a clip of Draymond Green literally tackling Terrence Mann, like in the middle. Did you see that?
Dude,
what is wrong with him, bro?
Draymond. Okay,
dude, he's insane. He's just too aggressive, I think.
It's not that he's too aggressive. I think that. Well, I mean, I think it's a little more complex than that. Draymond Green to me is. I don't love Draymond Green
I hate him actually.
Like just as a person. Like, I mean, as a person on the court, I don't care about what he does off the court. But
he's a dick,
I just
bro.
don't. Yeah, I don't like the way that he like carries himself sometimes. Mm-hmm. I think that he's probably one of the most
disrespectful.
No. I was trying to think of. He's probably one of the most influential players at his position of this era. What he's done for the small forward, power forward position. After that run that the Warriors went on, he basically changed the way that teams play the center position. Everybody wanted to go small, and it worked. Because he made plays and he was able to hit his shots and stuff like that. So I'm not taking away from who he is as a player. I think that he's a Hall of Famer for sure.
Definitely
influential. As influential as anybody on that Golden State Warriors team, to be perfectly honest with you, when they were at their prime. But I think with him, he is willing to do whatever it takes to play his role of the enforcer or play his role as the guy that gets into people's heads. And sometimes it just comes off as straight dirty. Like he'll throw guys to the ground. Bro. He jumped over Zoo's back to try and get a block, which he knew he wasn't going to get, and put his arms around Zoo's neck, and he threw Terrence Mann to the ground a couple plays. And we've seen the videos of him kicking people in the nuts and, throwing people to the ground.
Punching Jordan Poole.
Yeah. Punching his own teammate. It's frustrating to watch because I know what a brilliant legacy he's had. And it's just like, we know you're getting older. We know you're not as productive on the court.
Yeah,
don't try and make up for it with bullshit like that. So
I feel like this year he's been on some weird, like I'm gonna just kick everyone's ass type of vibe. And a lot of these players say this all the time, like no one's fighting in the NBA, but Draymond Green almost like tries to act like he's going to fight, like he's gonna do something. And what are they gonna do about it? They're not gonna fight me. So like, let me just do whatever. Let me push them. Let me say whatever. Let me tackle them. Do this and that. And every team wants to have an enforcer because it makes sure that the stars of the team are kind of kept safe almost.
Totally.
And especially like on the Warriors, like Steph Curry isn't doing anything to anyone. So it's kind of got to be Draymond Green that's got to step up.
Totally.
But I think he's just taking it too far this year, man. He's really
and
taking
he
it
has
too far.
been. And
Terrence, it just pisses me off because Terrence Mann is like, dude, he's an angel, bro. Like, why are you tackling Terrence Mann of all people, bro? Tackle Paul George, bro.
I don't know. That's been the case for the last couple of years, but we're going off on a little bit of a tangent.
I know. I'm
Draymond Green. No, it's fine. I'm always willing to get off my shots on Draymond Green.
That just sucks.
But yeah, what we want to talk about next, and we're just going to touch on it briefly before we get on out of here, is the two games that are going. It's a weird schedule this next week with the play-in, which I still don't understand.
Me neither.
How that works, but we only play two games until we come at you next. We have a game against the Denver Nuggets. When is that? We have a game against the Denver Nuggets on Wednesday, and then we have a game against the Utah Jazz in Utah on Friday. The only thing that I worry about against the Nuggets, the aforementioned Nuggets game, is I believe the Jokic. Is Jokic back? I think Jokic and Murray are both back.
Jokic is back, yeah.
Jokic and Murray are both back.
Murray has a sprained ankle, I think, so he's definitely going to be back. And Jokic has been back. I think he played last night or 2 nights. Was that last night?
I don't know. I've been so busy, but yeah. So we are going to be facing. It's pretty easy to say, but we are going to be facing a better version of the Nuggets team that pushed our shit in on Monday. So that's something that we have to be ready for.
And the game before.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to be. We're going to have to be ready for. It is going to be at home, so I hope that Clipper Nation shows up in full force. I've been to plenty of Clipper games. I had season tickets a couple years ago. Obviously, I've been to plenty of Clipper games in my time being a Clipper fan, and there's games where it sounds like a graveyard in there. So this is an important game, and I know that there's plenty of diehard Clipper fans out there. We have the best fans in the world, but we got to show it. Sometimes we're a little too quiet. So I think that Clipper Nation needs to show out in full force. The Kings did beat the Nuggets yesterday, according to Shea. So this looks like, it's something that we can do. It's always, the Clippers can beat anybody on any given night, but we just have to go out there and do it. Hopefully everybody's healthy. That's another thing, real quick tangent, 30 seconds. One thing that I'm not taking for granted this season that I've been really happy and proud of as a Clipper fan is our guys are playing, man. Our guys are playing every game. We haven't had any gnarly injuries other than the Plumlee injury, and obviously BBJ. We'd love to see him back out there, but he's been out for the whole season so far. I will say that is something that has me feeling really good and really hopeful going into this season, is the fact that from a just being able to play and being able to stay healthy standpoint, the guys have done a good job. And at the end of the day, we can't have our cake and eat it too. So, when the guys play bad, obviously it sucks. But, last season we were saying, oh, these guys always get hurt. Why can PG and Kawhi never stay healthy? And we've had that so far. So that's something that I am happy about.
Yeah, man. Don't applaud a fish for swimming, though, dude. They're supposed to play every game. They're supposed to play every game, bro. Like, why are we paying Paul George $45 million?
That is true.
I expect them to play every game. The expectation to this point is like, we're just happy that they played 14 games so far. But I get it. In recent seasons, they haven't been able to do that, and so it's kind of refreshing to see.
Well, it's also something that, from the side of it, aspect of it, that we can't help, is we have had good luck overall in terms of injuries, and that's something that I am thankful for. Mm-hmm. Thankful to the basketball gods. Please keep this streak of good luck and keep us healthy. So that that is something. If when we escape from a game with a clean injury report, that is not something that I take lightly. With our injury history for this team, so I just hope that stays the course. Because when we're healthy, we always say it, but at the end of the day, when we are healthy, we can beat anybody. Shea just told us, give a shout out to Shea Gilgis. Him and his girl are having a baby. Shout out Shea. Shout out Shea Gilgis.
Congrats, Shea.
Baby Shea coming. Did they already have the kid, or? Okay. Baby Shea on the way. So yeah, congrats to the young fella. Clipper legend. Yeah. So, but basically, going back to the original point, yeah, I'm just happy that we're healthy, man.
I get it.
And, I think that goes a long way playing teams like the Nuggets, which we are set to play them on Wednesday at home at 7 o'clock. And then after that, we do play a Jazz team who we've only seen once this season, and they did beat us. They
And
aren't
they've been
playing great.
balling. Did you
They
say
aren't
they
playing.
aren't?
They aren't playing great. They're 7-13. I know that
They just won
we.
last night.
Who did they play?
They played the.
Rolla doesn't even know.
Oh, I watched it. I literally watched it last night because it was.
We're talking about the Jazz.
I lost my fantasy matchup because of Malcolm Brogdon.
No, Malcolm Brogdon plays for the Trailblazers.
Yeah, so they were playing the Trailblazers.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, okay. So the Jazz beat the Trailblazers. I think that we can still beat them. 7-13.
But it went to overtime.
7-13. They're 21st in points per game, second in rebounds. So that always has me taking positives. The same thing that we saw against the Knicks, a team that's struggling on offense. They're 8th in the league in assists, but struggling on offense. But they are in the top 5 in rebounds. So hopefully it doesn't go the way that the Knicks game went, where we just got out rebounded. One thing that has me hopeful for that is Zoo has been playing his best basketball of the season as of late. So let's go ahead and take advantage of that. Let's hope that Big Zoo can keep it going and be a force in the paint. And Daniel Tice, who's for the most part, I've loved what I've seen from Vanilla Tice. Hopefully he can come off the bench and give us some good numbers, particularly on the glass. Just keep these guys off the glass. Walker Kessler is back, and he is. I think he's going to be one of the most dominant defensive bigs in the league in the next couple years. He's a monster shot blocker. He can grab rebounds. They have big bodies. John Collins can jump over everybody. Lauri Markkanen's not small. They have guys that crash the glass, and they have the height to do it. So, yeah, man, I think that's a game we can win. But my biggest thing going into that one is just keep the Jazz off the glass. Don't let them get second chance points. And Zoo's going to have to be a big part of that. Zoo and Russ, man. Russ, I can't say enough about what Russ has done for us on the glass. He's had big rebound after big rebound. He's probably, I haven't looked at the numbers, but he's probably one of our best offensive rebounders, if not the
definitely.
best.
Definitely.
Just got to be dominant on the glass, but we can win that one
tough.
even.
It's going to be a tough back-to-back for Zoo with Jokic also playing in the Nuggets game.
Agreed, but Zoo. One thing I love about.
He's got to.
I was gonna say one thing that I love about Zoo is he generally stays out of injury. He stays out of getting injured or injury problems. So I think that he out of all the guys on the team, he's probably the most equipped to stay ready physically for a game against Jokic, and then immediately a game against the second best rebounding team in the league as of right now. So. I think, obviously the Jazz, I feel better about the Jazz game than I do about the Nuggets game, but hopefully, we win back to back. I know I say this every week, but, we took a big win against the Warriors in a emphatic fashion, 3-point shot over Klay Thompson from Paul George, who had been struggling. That's the kind of stuff that gives teams the confidence, particularly, from Paul George's perspective. That's a tough shot, and you got to pat yourself on the back after a shot like that. And hopefully he knows that he can hit shots like that time and time again. And we're going to need it from him in the worst way against this Nuggets team and against the Jazz. So I would absolutely love to see us go back, get back-to-back wins coming up, and go into the post in-season tournament week with 2 wins in our belt. That would put us over 500. Which is crazy to say that we aren't over 500 right now, but we got to keep moving forward.
We could have been.
We could have been, but we can only move forward. So I think that we can do that. And I think that Paul George is going to have to be, like you always say, Rolla, Paul George is going to have to be the leader. We got to see the continued outstanding play from Kawhi. I think Harden just got to keep doing what he's doing. And Russ, Russ got to be that leader off the bench, got to be that vocal leader on the floor. Everybody's got to chip in these games, and we got to start building a team identity and start getting into good habits. So that's something we can do. I'd love to see it happen. Rolla, do you have any closing thoughts before we go into this Sunday evening?
Yeah, it's I'm expecting 2 wins. Obviously, the Nuggets game is going to be a rough one. It's going to be tough. I'm expecting to see Kawhi turn it on again, because I think he realizes now that he kind of has to pour on the points for us to be dominant. I'm expecting Paul George to be back to what he usually is. I mean, he would be coming off that the last shot he shot was the game winner. So I would assume he's a little bit more confident. I would assume his stature on the court will be a little bit bigger, in the sense of he'll be a little bit more confident
Yeah,
in
totally.
shooting and getting to his spots and knowing that he is that guy. Um, the Nuggets are a good team, but like I said, Jokic is he's reigning Finals MVP. But like I said the last time, I don't think he's better than Paul George. I don't think he's more talented. Um, and
Yeah.
that's the truth. At the end of the day, that's how I feel. And I look at the players, and I look at what Paul George can do on the court, and I think that he can do more on the court than Jokic can. Um, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough game. But I expect greatness from our 4 superstars.
Absolutely, and I think that's what we got to do moving
That's
forward.
basically it.
We got to expect greatness from these guys because
Yeah,
it's now or never. So,
facts.
Clipper Nation, we thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're looking forward to these 2 games because every game means a lot, especially early in the season. As the season gets harder, we got to take these wins, and we got
Yep.
to get into good habits because there's no time like the present to do it. This is the biggest season in Clipper history, I think. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and you can find us on Spotify, on Deezer, Amazon Music. Um, uh, where else can they find us? Apple Podcasts and YouTube, obviously. And then give us a shout out on Twitter, guys, at Clipper, or excuse me, at Clip Service Pod. Um, Feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think of the pod. Give us a 5-star review wherever you can. We so appreciate it, guys. And any Clipper fans that are going to that Denver game, bring your A game because the boys are going to need it. Let's keep that confidence going. Yeah.
Yes,
Without
sir.
anything else, Rolla, you have anything else to say?
No, just let's just win.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree.
All
Well,
right,
thank you
guys.
guys so much, and we will talk to you next week. Go
Peace.
Clips.